According to Jewish tradition, the Messiah will enter Jerusalem through this gate.
There was many places that people were trying to figure out, where is the temple really located? People were not sure.
A guide puts his palm against the sealed gate and jerks it back. Something just moved, not outside the stone, inside it. He's walked past this gate 3,000 times in 20 years. He knows every crack, every shadow, every grain of ancient limestone. The eastern gate of Jerusalem doesn't move. It hasn't moved since 1541. That's the whole point. It's sealed, packed with stone, dead. Except his hand just felt something shift behind the surface. He presses his palm flat again, holds it there. 10 seconds, 20, then it comes again. A low tremor deep inside the structure, like something waking up after a very long sleep. He doesn't tell the tourists. He doesn't post it online. He doesn't call a newspaper. He tells 3 other guides who work the same route along the old city walls. They start checking too, pressing their hands against the stone, waiting, feeling. Within weeks, all of them feel it. And get this, none of them can explain it. No construction crews working nearby, no excavation projects beneath the wall, no seismic activity registered in the area. Just vibrations inside a gate that's been dead for 5 centuries. Vibrations that started appearing in the last few years and keep coming back. The guides aren't the only ones noticing. Fine dust appears along seams that were solid for generations. Stones shift where alignment held perfectly for centuries. And now, believers from around the world fly in just to touch the wall and see for themselves. Something is happening at Jerusalem's sealed gate, and what they're finding has no official explanation. The sealed gate. The eastern gate sits in the eastern wall of Jerusalem's old city, facing directly toward the Mount of Olives across the Kidron Valley. Every other gate in Jerusalem works. The Jaffa Gate handles western traffic. The Damascus Gate serves the north. People pass through. Commerce flows. Life moves in and out constantly. This one stays shut. Stone packed into stone. Solid masonry filling the ancient archways. No entrance, no exit, no function whatsoever. The Ottoman Sultan Suleiman the Magnificent ordered it sealed in 1541 when he rebuilt Jerusalem's walls. Historians debate the exact reason. Some say military strategy, eliminating a vulnerable entry point in the defenses. The gate faced the Kidron Valley and the Mount of Olives beyond. An invading army could stage there, but others say something else entirely drove the decision. Suleiman knew the prophecies. Jewish tradition held that the Messiah would enter Jerusalem through the eastern gate. Christian tradition said the same, that Christ would return through this specific threshold. The Ottoman Sultan, ruling a Muslim empire, wanted to prevent that entry, so he filled the gate with stone and constructed a Muslim cemetery directly in front of it. The logic went like this. A holy figure wouldn't walk through graves, and even if he tried, he'd find the door sealed shut. But here's the catch. The prophecy said it would be sealed. The prophet Ezekiel, writing during the Babylonian exile over 2,500 years ago, recorded a specific vision about this gate. This gate shall be shut. It shall not be opened, and no man shall enter in by it, because the Lord, the God of Israel, hath entered in by it. Therefore it shall be shut. Read that again. The gate would close. It would stay closed. No man would pass through. It would wait in sealed silence until the one who was supposed to enter finally came. Suleiman thought he was blocking a prophecy. He was fulfilling it. The prophet Zechariah added the next piece of the picture. His feet shall stand in that day upon the Mount of Olives, which is before Jerusalem on the east. Look at a map. The Mount of Olives sits directly east of Jerusalem, directly east of the eastern gate. A straight line runs from the mountain to the threshold, the departure point, and the sealed gate facing each other across the valley. For believers, the eastern gate isn't just architecture. It's a frozen door, a threshold suspended in time, a passage waiting for the moment prophecy says it opens. And for 483 years, nothing happened there. Nothing at all. The stone held, the seams stayed tight, the structure sat completely inert while empires rose and fell around it. The Ottomans controlled it, then lost it. The British took Jerusalem, Israel was reborn. Wars raged in the valley below, and the gate just sat there, silent, still, sealed. Then something changed. Not dramatically, not suddenly. Not with any announcement or visible event, but persistently, quietly. Small shifts that shouldn't be happening at a structure defined by permanent stillness. The guides noticed first, then the regulars who visit the walls for prayer. Then word started spreading through networks of believers who pay attention to exactly this kind of thing. The gate, that prophecy says, stays sealed until it opens for the Messiah. That gate is showing signs of movement, and no one can explain why. The evidence. The first thing people noticed was the dust. Joseph Berman has guided tours through Jerusalem's Old City for 23 years. He walks past the Eastern Gate almost daily. He knows what stable masonry looks like. He knows how ancient stone behaves. He knows when something is wrong. The seams were packed solid for as long as I've been doing this, he says. Decades, nothing changed. Then I started seeing fine powder along the joints, not from outside, from inside. Dust doesn't come through sealed stone. There's no path for it. But there it was. The dust appears along the blocked archways where stone meets stone, in the tight seams where the Ottoman builders packed the gateway shut. It doesn't accumulate in thick piles. It doesn't fall continuously. It shows up in the same spots, settles into fine lines along the cracks, disappears after wind or rain, then returns. The pattern repeats over months and years. Now, this could be dismissed on its own. Buildings settle, stone erodes, tiny particles work loose over centuries. Maybe it's nothing worth mentioning, but here's the catch. The Eastern Gate didn't do this before. Guides who've worked these walls for decades never saw dust along those seams until recently. The gate sat completely stable for generations. Now something has changed, and all of them see it. And get this, the dust comes from the inside. Think about that. The gate is sealed. No opening, no gap, no path for external debris to work through solid stone. Yet fine particles appear along internal seams that were packed tight since the 16th century. Something behind that surface is grinding, shifting, moving in ways that produce friction where no friction should exist. That's when people started examining the stones themselves more carefully. The displacement showed up next. Certain stones in the gate's masonry no longer sit flush. The faces that align perfectly for centuries, smooth, tight, exactly. Positioned, now show slight offsets. You wouldn't notice walking past as a tourist snapping photos. But if you've studied that wall for years, you see it immediately. The alignment is off. Something moved. Joseph measured one section informally with a straight edge. Stones that were flush 6 years ago now show a gap you can fit a fingernail into. He checked again a year later. The gap had widened slightly. That doesn't happen in stable masonry. Stone doesn't just decide to shift after 500 years of holding perfect position. Something pushed it. Something pressed from behind with enough force to displace ancient blocks that weigh hundreds of pounds each. Something created movement where stillness defined the structure's entire existence. Still, skeptics could try to explain this. Temperature expansion over centuries, gradual settling of the wall's foundation, natural geological processes stretched across half a millennium finally becoming visible. They might be right, but they can't. Explain what comes next. The vibrations changed everything. Multiple people now report the exact same experience. Pressing a palm flat against the lower stones near the base and feeling something move inside. Not a single tremor, not a one-time event. Repeated pulses, brief, low frequency. Like a heartbeat behind the wall, like something breathing. The vibrations don't correspond to anything external. No construction projects nearby that could transmit through the ground. No heavy traffic routes that could shake bedrock. No seismic activity recorded beneath the Temple Mount or anywhere in the vicinity. Geological instruments pick up nothing unusual. The ground around the gate stays perfectly still, but the gate itself trembles. And get this, it keeps happening, again and again, year after year. Different people, different days, different times of year, different weather conditions. The same sensation reported independently by observers who don't know each other and have no connection, something stirring inside a structure sealed for half a millennium. Joseph has felt it himself. He doesn't advertise it to the tour groups, but when he's alone at the wall, he presses his hand against the lower stones and waits. About one time in 3, he feels it. A low pulse that seems to come from deep inside the structure, not the surface, not vibration traveling through the ground, something behind the sealed stone itself. I've touched these walls for 23 years, he says. I know what normal feels like. This isn't normal. I don't know what it is, but it isn't nothing. One visitor described pressing both hands flat against the stone and feeling warmth radiating where the rock should be cool. The tremor came seconds later. She held position and counted 4 distinct pulses before it stopped. Then nothing for 10 minutes. Then it came again. Another regular at the site brings a small vibration sensor designed for industrial equipment. He's documented readings that show movement inside the wall, micro tremors that register on sensitive instruments, but don't correspond to any external source. Movement that has no business being there. No authority has issued any statement. No engineering team has examined the site publicly or released findings. No religious body has acknowledged the reports or offered explanation. Complete administrative silence while the physical evidence accumulates. But the guides keep feeling it. The regulars keep documenting it. And the believers keep arriving, more of them every year. The Gathering. Maria Santos flew 12 hours from Sao Paulo. She didn't come for the Western Wall. She didn't come for the Church of the Holy Sepulchre. She didn't come to walk the Via Dolorosa or float in the Dead Sea. She came for a sealed gate that hasn't opened since before her country existed as a nation. She'd heard the reports, whispers spreading through her church, videos shared in prayer groups on WhatsApp, testimony from a missionary who'd pressed his hand to the stone and felt something move. Her pastor told her it was probably nothing. Her husband said she was wasting money they didn't have. She came anyway. She had to see for herself. The morning she arrived at the old city, fog hung low over the Mount of Olives. She walked through the Kidron Valley as the sun rose behind the mountain, following the same path pilgrims have walked for 3,000 years. The ancient Jewish tombs lined the hillside. The Garden of Gethsemane stood quiet in the early light. And then she saw it. The eastern gate appeared through the mist like something from a dream. Massive double archways blocked solid with stone, ancient limestone glowing gold in the sunrise. Larger than she expected, more imposing, more silent. She didn't speak. She didn't pray out loud. She just walked up to the wall and pressed her palm flat against the lower stones, exactly like she'd seen in the videos. For a long moment, nothing happened, just cold rock against her skin. Ancient silence filling the valley, the sounds of the city waking up somewhere behind her. Then she felt it, a pulse, low and deep, like something massive turning over in its sleep. Tears ran down her face. She didn't wipe them away. She just stood there, palm pressed to the stone, fingers spread wide, whispering the same phrase over and over. It's warm. Why is it warm? She stayed 3 hours that first morning. She came back every day for 2 weeks. She extended her ticket and stayed another week after that. She maxed out a credit card she couldn't afford to max out. When she finally flew home, she told her husband she'd be back. She didn't know when, but she'd be back. Maria isn't alone, not anymore, not even close. The guides have noticed the shift over recent years. More unfamiliar faces appear near the eastern gate now. Not tourists checking items off a standard itinerary, but people who stand in silence for hours. They bring Bibles and prayer, books. They bring rosaries and prayer beads. They bring notebooks where they document every sensation, every observation, every moment when the stone seems to respond to their presence. They bring cameras. They bring recording equipment. They bring the desperate hope that they might capture something that proves what they have felt. They come from South Korea and Nigeria, from Texas and the Philippines, from small towns in Argentina and megacities in India. Some book one-way tickets without knowing when they'll return. Some come every year like clockwork. Some save for decades to make a single visit. They don't know each other. They never coordinated. They don't belong to the same churches or organizations. They simply followed the reports and showed up at the same spot for the same reason. Some of them weep when they feel it. Some of them laugh. Some stand frozen with their eyes closed, processing what their hands are telling them. Some photograph the dust lines obsessively, documenting changes no one official will confirm. No organized movement coordinates them. No church announces official pilgrimages to the sealed gate. No travel agency offers Eastern Gate tour packages. They simply arrive, drawn by whispered reports that something ancient might be stirring at the one threshold that prophecy says stays closed until the end. They gather at dawn when the light hits the stone golden. They gather at dusk when shadows fill the Kidron Valley. They press their hands to the ancient masonry and wait for confirmation that they're not imagining things. And more of them arrive every month. The implications. Take a step back and look at what we actually know. A gate sealed for 483 years. A gate that biblical prophecy says remains closed until it opens for one specific event. An event billions of believers are waiting for. A gate positioned on an exact geographical axis described in Scripture. The Mount of Olives directly east, the threshold directly west, the path between them unchanged since Ezekiel wrote about it 2,600 years ago. That gate now shows signs of physical activity that no one can explain. Dust from internal friction where no friction should exist. Stones shifting after centuries of perfect stability. Vibrations felt by dozens of independent observers with no corresponding external cause. Heat radiating from ancient rock that should be cold. All of it documented, none of it explained. And get this, it all started recently. Not during the Crusades when Christian armies fought to control Jerusalem. Not during the Ottoman conquest when Suleiman sealed the gate in the first place. Not during World War I when the British took the city. Not during the founding of Israel in 1948 or the Six-Day War in 1967 when Israel unified Jerusalem under its control. Now, within the last several years, within living memory, after Israel exists again as a nation in its ancient land, something that hadn't happened for nearly 2,000 years. After Jerusalem stands central to global attention and conflict. After the prophetic framework that pointed to this specific gate has reassembled in observable, geographical, undeniable reality. Think about what that means. For most of the time since Ezekiel wrote his prophecy, the conditions it described didn't exist. No Jewish nation, no Jewish control of Jerusalem. The gate sealed and forgotten, its prophetic significance dormant, because the framework it fit into had been dismantled by history. That changed in the 20th century. The nation returned, Jerusalem was reunified. The geographical reality that Scripture assumed came back into existence. And within decades of that reassembly, the sealed gate starts moving. Coincidence? Maybe. But the believers gathering at the gate have their answer. They've read the prophecies their whole lives. They know what that gate represents. They know where it sits in the sequence their faith describes. They believe what they've always believed, that this threshold will open when the time comes, and that the time might finally be approaching. The skeptics have their answer too. Natural processes, confirmation bias, religious imagination finding meaningful patterns in random stone decay, wishful thinking dressed up as observation. But here's the catch. Neither side can prove their case. No authority has explained the vibrations. No engineer has published findings on the dust. No geologist has officially accounted for the stone displacement after 500 years of stability. The physical observations remain completely unaddressed while both believers and skeptics argue about what it all means. Meanwhile, the gate keeps doing what it's doing. Dust keeps appearing along sealed seams. Stones keep shifting out of alignment. Palms pressed to cold rock keep feeling something move inside. Something that doesn't match any natural explanation offered so far. Something that fits precisely into a prophetic framework that's existed for millennia and pointed to this exact location. The world isn't paying attention. The news doesn't cover it. The authorities stay silent. But the gate doesn't seem to care whether anyone's watching. The Eastern Gate has stood sealed since 1541. Through empires and wars and revolutions and the complete transformation of human civilization, it held position. Silent, still, closed. Exactly as prophecy said it would be. Now it's showing signs of movement that no one can explain. Signs that no authority will address. Signs that keep accumulating while the world looks elsewhere. Maybe it means nothing. Maybe the stone is finally settling after 5 centuries. Maybe the dust and the displacement and the vibrations are all coincidence piled on confirmation, bias piled on wishful thinking. Or maybe a door that prophecy says stays shut, until the end is showing the first signs that it won't stay shut forever. The believers gathering there have already decided what they think. Every month more. Of them arrive from farther away. Every month, more hands press against ancient stone, looking for evidence that something long dormant is stirring awake. And every month, the gate gives them something they can't dismiss, something they can feel with their own hands, something they document and share and return to witness again. The officials stay silent, the skeptics stay skeptical, the world stays distracted, but the gate keeps moving. The question isn't whether you believe the prophecy. The question isn't whether you think ancient scripture predicts future events. The question is simpler than that. What's moving inside that gate? And why, after 500 years of perfect stillness, is it moving now?